The Healing Through Love podcast with Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. In episode 28, Elayna Fernandez discusses with us her 7-step guide to processing your painful emotions.
And I believe that processing our emotions is really the key to healing. And actually, there are a lot of research that say that it's truly by processing them that we move through them and we move past them. And like you said earlier, I love that you mentioned this, that it's a journey. It's not something that just happens once and you decide to forgive and you decide to move on. It's really all about honoring that it is a process that we go through every single day. And that's why that it's necessary to learn. And one of the things that I love about this process is that it can be, things in the past, but it's proactive because when we process our emotions daily, I call it your daily date with pain.
The Healing Through Love podcast with Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. The Healing Through Love podcast with host Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson would love to acknowledge Global Glamping Charities Incorporated for generously supporting this podcast. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all of its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org.
Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Healing Through Love is a social enterprise whose vision is to shift the awareness of domestic and family violence within the community and to support victim survivors. Our mission is to provide family and domestic violence survivors with a soft place to land by offering advice and services available to them and to their families. We interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. I want to take this opportunity to thank our supporter, Global Glamping Charities, for their valued support. Their primary purpose is to solve homelessness in all of its forms. This includes people facing the real potential of economic homelessness, from the gap between real wages and to the cost of living, those affected by natural disasters, and women who are fleeing domestic violence. To find out more about Global Glamping Charities, you can find them at globalglamping.org. Today, my guest is Elayna Rodriguez, and she is a multiple trauma survivor diagnosed with clinical depression and complex PTSD. Through her many near-death experiences, she discovered that when we don't process our pain, it sabotages our life. I can vouch for that. Since 1996, she has dedicated her life to being a student of pain, and she's found that science, philosophy, and spirituality agree on this concept. Welcome, Elayna, and thank you so much for being here, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Rose, and Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you for having me and for giving me the honor and privilege to be a part of the show.
Yeah, so tell me how, I don't want to go into too much depth, obviously, but how did you get from near-death experiences to doing what you're doing now?
Wow, it has been a journey because I grew up in a slum and there was a lot of violence in my childhood. There was a lot of neglect, but also extreme poverty, of course. And I have been dealing with suicidal thoughts since I was 5 years old. So to be here where I am is really a miracle. And I have been all my life very blessed to find tools to process my pain throughout my journey. And when I was 19, I was in a coma for 8 days. And that's when I really found the way to process my pain. So I became what I call a student of pain, but it has taken a lot of years, and actually it took 20 years from that moment for me to really embrace that has been my calling in life. And with my blog and my community, I started it actually as a way to process my pain, because I found that sharing my story and storytelling is how I best make sense of the painful experiences that I have lived. And so it has been just a journey of finding what works to stay alive, and then having that desire to help others do the same.
Yeah, I can I mean, I haven't had such a traumatic background as yourself, but I've lived through childhood trauma, and yeah, I know that it can sabotage your life totally. It took me a long time to accept the fact that, the pain that was caused to me wasn't my fault, and I still have some anger issues with the people who perpetrated this, and I don't know that I will ever fully recover from that anger. As much as I've tried to process it, it's I think people that are there to protect you are supposed to look after you and not let these things happen to you. So yeah, I think eventually I may find that forgiveness, but forgiveness really starts with yourself, and I've started that process. I have forgiven myself. So I guess what you are doing is you are founder of the Positive Mum community, and you help mums turn their painful stories into into books, into courses, into impactful conversations and talks. So how do you do that, and and what benefit has it brought to you and to your community?
Thank you for asking that question, because I think that the best way to really understand our pain is to know that there's a purpose in it. And one of the things that I always say is that I kind of ran into this positivity by a divine intervention, because as you know, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, which is why I'm in the show today. And I remember when I became a single mom of my daughters. They were 1 and 2 at that time. Now they're 20 and 19, which is really crazy to think about. So I've been blogging for 18 years. And I found myself, at a crossroads where I was in this country. I live in the US, and it was a brand new country. I was an immigrant, still am, right? I've been here 21 years, and I was alone. And as many of us know, one of the most powerful tools that our perpetrators use is that they isolate us from the people that would intervene and that would protect us. So I found myself really alone and not having any friends, and being in a foreign country to me, and not having any money, and experiencing homelessness. So I just laid there on the ground in the fetal position, just thinking, like, I can't do this. This is too hard. And my daughters and the world is better off without me. And just feeling that darkness come over me, and just thinking, there's no way I can get out of this. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have a bank account. So really feeling that sense of hopelessness. And I'm sure that, there are many people that are watching and listening and thinking, I have felt alone. I have felt hopeless. I have felt that there are no options for me, because we all experience those moments, whether people understand that they make sense or don't. but they are real and valid to us. And so in that moment, I couldn't think about anything that I could do because really I didn't have any answers. But for some reason, I thought maybe I'll write what I can be. And I had all these images that came to me as flashes of hope. And the first thing that I wrote was be positive. And so that was the beginning of the Positive Mom brand and community. And that was the beginning of my ritual every day of writing my to-be list, which is something that is under, I can take charge of that. I can take charge of who I want to be, even if everything that I plan to do goes out the window, because, they say this saying that I love, like, oh, you make plans and God laughs, because you never know what's going to happen, but you can always make conscious choices that help you become who you want to be. So at that moment, I decided that I was going to be a positive mom. I didn't know really what that looked like. That was never modeled to me. I didn't experience it, but I decided that I was going to be it, and that I needed other people. I needed to kind of, give that to others. And so when you asked, what has that done for you? Well, that decision really shaped my life and made possible a really beautiful and different life for my daughters. I have 4 daughters now. And beyond that, it's a community. So I learn from the moms of my community. I get, encouragement from them. It's a community, it's an exchange. So it's not like I'm this big person. Actually, I'm really short. I'm 4'8.5". But it's not like I'm here and they're there. We really are sisters. We really are in community. And so it's really beautiful that now I have what I didn't have then. And they also have that in each other and in me. We have that sisterhood, that community of people that we go through the same things. We've been through similar things, and we get that encouragement from one another. So it has really been a blessing to me to be part of it and to learn from them, and to also be inspired to go on and to continue the work that I'm doing, because they inspire me to do that.
Oh, that's excellent. That is so good. That is so good. Now we're going to talk about how we can process our painful emotions, and for a lot of us it is quite difficult, as you yourself know. And you've developed a 7-step guide, so I would love you to share with us some of the 7 steps that we can use to help process these emotions, because emotions sometimes are really hard to deal with and to overcome.
Yeah, and I believe that processing our emotions is really the key to healing. And actually, there are a lot of research that say that it's truly by processing them that we move through them and we move past them. And like you said earlier, I love that you mentioned this, that it's a journey. It's not something that just happens once and you decide to forgive and you decide to move on. It's really all about honoring that it is a process that we go through every single day. And that's why that it's necessary to learn. And one of the things that I love about this process is that it can be things in the past, but it's proactive, because when we process our emotions daily, I call it your daily date with pain. Well, I think, that sounds a little awkward, but it really helps us be kinder to ourselves, and also understand that we've been through hard things so that we have that grace for ourselves. And that teaches us to have grace for other people that are going through the same. Because when we push and repress our emotions, we also are hard on others that are going through a hard time. So, one of the steps, or the first step, and they, I love alliteration, so they all starts with the letter S. And the first step is it's see it. See it. And I call it see it because you're going to recall a painful memory or thought or stressful or distressful experience that you've had in the past. And of course, it doesn't need to be like when you were a child, but it could be. You just kind of trust that your intuition is going to bring something to your awareness that you need to process that day. And you're going to obviously get still and really understand that this is a moment for you to just focus on that emotion. And you're going to see it. You're going to see what happened. Then the second step is you're going to sense it. And this is the somatic portion of this process. You're going to find in your body where it's located, it's stored, because we store trauma in our bodies. And it doesn't matter that the pain sometimes, because a lot of time we think about trauma as something painful that happened that was physical. But even if you experienced only emotional trauma, like psychological or emotional abuse, you still are going to store it in your body because it's connected. And so you're going to, as you think about that and see it in your mind, you're going to see, maybe you feel it in like a hard, lump in your throat, or maybe an emptiness in your stomach, or maybe your shoulders are lumping, or it's tingly or tense or tight. So it could be something like a temperature, maybe something warm or cold. So you're going to focus on that and really see in your body where that's located. That's number 2. So see and sense. The third is study, which is why I call myself a student of pain, right? It's not the favorite subject, but it's a necessary subject, because I always say pain is the common thread to humanity. We all experience pain. I mean, we're born out of pain, whether it's natural birth or it's C-section, somebody has to experience pain. And it's also a pain to adopt, so it any way you put it. So this is like the reality of life. So you're going to study your pain by seeing what comes up, because it's a mind, body, and spirit experience. So your pain is going to have messages for you, and it's going to say things. You're going to have parts of you that are saying, different voices, different statements. So you're going to look at what comes up as you're sensing that emotion, and you're going to ask it some questions. You're going to become curious. And that's one of our self qualities, is the curiosity. That's what we were born with, right? So you're going to say, and the questions that you could ask could be like, why am I reacting like this? Or why did I react like that? And is there a pattern? Have I lived this before? Have I felt this way before? Or is there another way that I could see this or interpret this event? So this is something that is going to come to you, and we're going to understand that what we think is a feeling sometimes is a judgment. So sometimes you're going to say like, oh, I was abandoned. And abandoned is actually a perspective or a perception. It's not a feeling. You can't find abandoned in your body, but you can find rejection. You can find sadness. You can find loneliness. So that's number 3, is studying it. And you're going to just be very removed from that experience. You're going to question it like a detective, I call it. Makes it fun, right? So then number 4 is going to be say it. And that is my favorite part. Say it is about validating the emotion, the reaction, the memory, those things that make us feel guilty and that makes us feel, maybe helpless. Those things that really cause us the actual pain. And the way to validate, if you're not familiar with validation, listening and hearing us right now, what that means is you're going to acknowledge all the feelings and make them okay. And make, just allowing the experience and knowing that everything that you're feeling is valid and that is justified. And so the way that you're going to do this sounds kind of like this, like you're going to use your first name because you're going to be your best friend right there and say, for example, Elayna, of course, that was hard for you, honey. It's okay to be sad. That's the natural reaction to this. Or, of course, you were angry. This is hard. This is frustrating. So you're going to just really be validating of whatever you reacted. Or, of course, you decided not to trust anybody. That was too scary for you. Also, whatever it is that comes for you, you're going to be that third person, your best friend, and you're going to really understand that it was okay to feel what you felt and to feel it still, just like you said, Rose. Sometimes you're still angry, and it's okay. It's okay to be angry because you know what? It would be crazy not to be angry, right? It's an angering thing. So number 5, we're almost there, is stay with it. And Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, she's one of my heroes. She teaches the 90-second rule, which is that any emotional response that we have to anything in the world, no matter what, only lasts 90 seconds. So we just have to stay with it 90 seconds. I mean, I work with a lot of moms and they have a lot of things to do, but they have 90 seconds and it's kind of like 2-3 minutes for the entire process. But if you stay with it 90 seconds, just feeling that sadness or that anger or that frustration or that fear, whatever it is that emotion is, then you're going to actually release it. Not entirely, but release it 90 seconds at a time every day. It adds up and it allows you to feel that release that is going to show up in everything that you do that day. Number 6 is going to be soothe yourself. And I don't know if you've read the 5 Love Languages, Rose. Have you familiar with
it? I haven't read it, but I've read snippets of it and it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And so if you know your love language, then you're going to do it in your love language or in several love languages. So it could be like giving yourself a hug or telling yourself an affirmation. Words of appreciation is my love language. Do you know yours?
No, I've got a few different ones. It depends on the mood.
Yeah, I know it changes, right? That's why I always recommend like try several ones and see what fits. But you know, it could be that, and it could be like if you're a physical touch, you could touch your heart. You could, you know, do something that really makes you feel like you're soothing yourself. I experienced a lot of things when I was a baby, an infant. So sometimes I pretend that I'm kind of soothing myself like this, like a tiny baby. And it's really something that I give myself permission to do. Because if you would have told me like a few years ago that I was going to be doing this, I would have been like, oh, that's awkward.
Same, yeah.
But it's really soothing. So that's number 6. And the 7th one, I already talked about it because it was that to-be list that I started that day on the ground in the fetal position. And that is going to be, you know, like now that I feel that I released a portion of that, because again, it's a journey. And now that I gave myself this validation, who can I be today, you know, with this that I carry today? And you will write a couple of things, or you could write more if you have the time and the desire. But, you know, for me, it just takes a couple of, you know, sentences or maybe 2 words. I try to go for a low standard so I don't feel like I didn't do it right, because you know how that gets in your head. And so sometimes it's like, you know what? Peaceful. I want to be peaceful today, or I want to be present with my kids, or I want to have more grace or more understanding. And then you carry that intention for the rest of the day. And you could do this anytime. I try to do it in the morning if I can help it, but it just takes a few minutes So anytime that you feel it, and if you will need to process something that is happening right now and not in the past, you can do that too. So there are no hard rules. It's just giving yourself a little time to just be present with yourself and understand that you go through hard things and that it's not your fault and that you're your best friend and you can be there for yourself. And that statement alone is so huge.
It absolutely is. And it's so important to be present for yourself, because we're, as women, we are present for everybody else, and we most often forget ourselves. And by the end of the day, we're exhausted and we think, where's the day gone? And so sometimes it's just nice to sit quietly with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever it is, and just sit quietly and reflect on the day, and especially if the day's been particularly bad, pick out some positives, because to me, I'm the eternal optimist, and I always try to find good in whatever situation that comes my way. So, even if it's going to be a rainy day, well, at least, I can stay inside and do something, or if it's going to be a hot day, whatever the case may be, but I always try to find something positive in anything. And so, my view on life is that it doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So it helps us to grow. And, even if bad things happen, there's a reason behind it. You can't see it at the time, but it's happened, and, it's made you the better person that you are. And if you can grow past the pain and the trauma, as you've clearly done, you can help others, and that's what life's about.
Can I give you a perspective on that I, something
Absolutely.
that I have studied so much and done so much research, and also, because at age 19, I was going to school. I had, moved out of the slum, going to university. It was like everything was amazing, like making US dollars in the Dominican Republic, and, I was feeling like all of my dreams were coming true. And then one day I'm going to school, I'm taking public transportation, and then I find myself trapped in this car where I was kidnapped for all this time. And he, obviously hurt me in every possible way that you can hurt a teen girl. And it was the most, horrible experience, and also very, very demoralizing. Number one, because I had been through so much abuse and I thought I was done. And so then it's like, oh, it's following me everywhere. So it really is my fault, right? It really is something about me that I just happen to go through these things. And that continued to be a theme for much of my life. And I was able to escape this kidnap, and I was almost beaten to death, and it was a horrific experience. And then when I talked to the people in my life, they wanted to motivate me, and they said things like those, like, everything happens for a reason. You're going to move on and be stronger. Thank God you're not pregnant. Like, you got to be grateful, because you could have been pregnant. You could have died. This is a miracle, and all of that actually made me, it was just one reaction. I want to disappear. I want to die. There's something wrong with me, because I can't find the positive. I can't be grateful. I am just angry, and I am just sad, and I just want to cry. And it seemed like I can't cry because everybody wants me to be grateful and be strong, or to celebrate this thing that happened when it was so horrible, and I can't shake these memories. So 6 months after that, I'm in a car accident. And my first thought, when I was unconscious and, I could see everything, it was a very crazy experience. It was surreal. And that's why I told you I found this process during this coma, because before that, I was not allowed to process anything. It was just like, move on, have the brighter, look at the brighter side.
I get that. Yeah, I had the same.
Yeah. And so, in this moment, I was like, great, I'm gonna die. This is awesome, because that's all I wanted to do. But then I saw the people at my bedside crying, breaking apart, scared. And you know what happened, Rose? I wanted to live. I wanted to live. I felt so loved because they cried and they were not strong for me. And they didn't tell me, they weren't saying that it happened for a reason. And they weren't saying that they were grateful. They were in pain. And so pain actually is healthy. It's healthy to let the people grieve. And so I decided, yeah, I want to live. And I remember just waking up to 19 bones that I had broken, and it was just like horrible, so much pain. And yet, and obviously the trauma didn't disappear that I had been through, but I had a different perspective because people weren't motivating me, they were validating me. They were saying, man, you've been through hard things and we're here for you. And it's okay that you ask for help and that you need us. And we're going to cry with you and we're going to get through this together. And so that's what we need. And the research is clear. It's not motivation that helps people. It's validation. It's telling them that it's okay to grieve. It's grieving with them. It's being present. And I call it 3 components: silence, safety, and space. I told you I like those S words. It's like sometimes it's like you hold them and you hold your tongue. That's what you need to do when somebody's in pain. Hold them and hold your tongue. Then they're going to figure out, just like you figure out, that they move through and they are strong. But it wasn't what happened that made them stronger. It was them. I didn't, it wasn't my abuser, my kidnapper, my perpetrator that made me stronger. It wasn't what he did to me. It's the decision I made to stay alive. I made me stronger.
Yes.
The parts of me that fought for my life, those were the ones that made me stronger. It wasn't him. It wasn't what happened. It wasn't all the other people that have hurt me. I don't owe them anything. I owe my 19-year-old self that. I owe my 28-year-old self that. Those are the things that we need to remember, that it was us, because otherwise we're going to be loyal to this pain and it's going to continue to happen to us. And this is something that I learned the hard way, of course, because it seems I'm very stubborn and didn't get it. But I'm learning now and I'm paying attention. And yeah, it's really humbling to see how strong I've been. And sometimes I connect with that younger version of myself and I say, my goodness, how did you do it? You're awesome, little girl. You are awesome, and thank you. And then that makes me stronger now.
You're quite right. I mean, how you've worded it is a lot better than I did, I guess. But I meant the same thing. It was like,
yeah.
I just use different words, I guess. And you're right. We make ourselves stronger. It's not what other people do for us. It's we have to have it in here. We have to have it in our heads and so especially in our hearts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yes.
I know that's what you meant. I just really wanted to unpack it.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, it does put another perspective on it, and I thank you for that. Now, Elayna, you have an offer for our listeners and viewers, a free membership to your Positive Mum community. Where can they find that?
Thank you so much for asking that. They can go to thepositivemom.com, and then there's going to be a link, a tab that says community, and also a big, big, bright purple button that says join community. And I can do that.
Perfect. Oh, I love it. And you're absolutely everywhere you're on. You've got your books on Amazon. You can find that, and I'll share the link in the show notes. And LinkedIn, you can find Elayna at The Positive Mom, and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok. She's absolutely everywhere. And she's a TEDx speaker as well. So you find her most likely, if you search her name, you'll find her in TEDx as well. Elayna, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today, and for sharing your steps to overcoming our pain through getting over our painful emotions, because it's not an easy task, and sometimes it takes years and years and years to get past the emotional traumas that we've been through. Elayna, we tongue-tied. Elayna, I'd love for you to share some wisdom with our audience before you go today.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I think that the last thing I want to say is, sometimes it's important to think about how we experience the pain in our lives, and to understand that we need safe people around us. Because sometimes, I shared how to process the pain, and I know that we have everything that we need inside of us. That's something that I believe in, that you'll hear everywhere. But at the same time, there are moments in which we cannot do it alone. And it's okay to ask for help and to seek that safe person that's going to get us out of that rut, of that dark moment. And so you're going to hear that happiness is a choice, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes
I agree.
Yeah, sometimes the choice is to find someone that's going to get you to the next step so that you can stay alive, because you matter. Your life matters, and your contribution to the world is so unique and it's so needed that and there are safe people waiting to help. So there's a lot of stigma about that. I've experienced so many intrusive thoughts throughout my entire life, and the secret is to say, I wish I could, but what I can do one thing, and it's find someone who is a safe person and talk to them, and then I can do the rest. But don't be ashamed or afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely.
I think that's my message. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Never be afraid to ask for help ever for anything, because there is always somebody out there that is willing just to lend an ear and not even offer any conversation whatsoever. And if you can find that person, it makes all the difference, because that black hole is a horrible place, and sometimes it's just hard to dig your way out of it, and that some person might just be that little glimmer of hope or light that you need.
Yeah. Thank you.
Elayna, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.